they zhuzhed this up a bit? I don't remember that guitar in there. Crimewatch is celebrating its 30th anniversary tonight with a special edition. 3 decades, and they've covered such high-profile cases as Susie Lamplugh, Sarah Payne and James Bulger. And, of course, the disappearance of Madeleine McCann as well. Nick Ross is former presenter of Crimewatch and joins us on the show. Nick, thanks for being with us. How you doing?
Morning, Shane. Hi.
Are you going to be part of the celebrations tonight, then? Are you be part of this special programme?
I thought 23 and a half years was enough. So I'm not part of it any longer. I mean, they did interview me for tonight's programme, but it's the programme has moved on since I left it. Actually, obviously, many things are the same, and I don't think they have jazzed up that music. When we started, Shane, we had no budget at all.
Right.
And so that comes from a record. It's called Helicopters, I think. It was free. That's why we used it.
Wow, I bet the person who wrote it wished they'd have charged in a better way. You dealt with, and I mean, you were one of the faces, of course, of Crimewatch, as you say, 23 and a half years?
Yeah.
And you got to deal with some pretty horrendous, some pretty grief-laden, dismal cases through your time as well. How did you manage to countenance all of that you were working with alongside these police officers? Because it can be a problem, can't it?
You're right. When we started, we thought, I mean, actually, I knew nothing about crime, and we thought this was going to be, daring do, twos and blues, rather exciting. Mm. And then we started getting involved with the victims, and we realised that, crime is not an abstract thing at all. And when you sit in cutting rooms showing victims reconstructions of what they've been through, it's quite emotive. And I got involved with quite a few of the people who were featured on the programme, and it can be pretty emotionally draining, of course.
And in terms of the success that it had, I mean, I guess you were saying you kind of didn't really, when you went into it, you didn't really kind of know. Well, none of us knew, did we? Even sitting at home watching it, knew the kind of successes that it would have. But did that surprise you?
Yeah, when we started 30 years ago, there weren't programmes like X Factor where the outcome of the programme's determined by the viewers or by listeners. I mean, there were phone-ins, and that was about it. So this was a heck of an experiment. And I have to tell you, we were 20 minutes into the programme before anybody rang. And I was sort of glancing nervously behind me. All the police officers supposed to be on the phones were all staring vacantly at the camera. Yeah. I thought, oh, God, this is not going to work.
What happens next?
Absolutely.
You couldn't call the police. They were all in the room with you.
Absolutely. Actually, there's a very funny thing about that. In those days, the area where audiences used to be penned in the studio was known as the pig pen. And there were all these police officers behind it. I remember the director saying, "What, you ought to go into the pig pen." They all thought this term had been coined just for them.
I love it. Was it because the one I always think of in America is America's Most Wanted, which of course was still going as well, isn't it? Was it the format? Was it nicked direct from that, or was it?
Oh no, America's Most Wanted was nicked from us.
Oh right, okay.
In fact, the guy who started Crimewatch was a producer called Peter Chafer, who was quite instrumental, and the idea, I suppose, comes all the way back from the original Police Wanted poster, and then there was a little programme called Police 5 with Shaw Taylor.
Oh, keep 'em peeled.
Oh, whoa, God, I didn't think you were old enough.
Yes, I'm sorry, I've let myself go there, haven't I? Yes.
Somebody's brought that back, I think. He must be in his 80s now, but then a West German programme, it was called West German in those days, had this Seide Gebrachten Seiten, which was sort of loosely translates as File X Unsolved. Okay. And they had the idea of using actors to dramatise what happened. And the tape of that was shown to Peter Chafer, who realised he just thought this had fantastic public service potential. Mm. And the police didn't. So, it was pretty difficult at the beginning.
I mean, it's been mainly an upbeat story, hasn't it? But, I mean, I couldn't talk to you without talking to you about Jill Dando, of course, as well. And that must have been just a horrendous time for all of you and everybody who knew her.
Well, of course it was. Jill was as popular, if not more popular, inside the BBC than, outside. And she was perhaps the most popular, certainly one of the most popular broadcasters or figures in the country at the time. She was a wonderful person, and everybody was in shock. There was also, because there were a lot of silly conspiracy theories going around, a lot of the people on the team were really worried, was that whoever did that, was he going to come for us as well? So it was a very difficult time. And even more so because those of us on the inside of the inquiry realised a lot of what we were reading wasn't true, and a lot of the conspiracy theories were just absurd. So it was very frustrating as well as very upsetting.
And what about you now, Nick? How do you fill your days as you've retired from that particular programme, but you're still working as hard as ever, aren't you?
I am, yeah. Funnily enough, although I had not the slightest interest in crime at all when I started on Crimewatch, you can't get that involved with victims for that period of time, over 23 years, without becoming involved. So a whole bunch of things. For one thing, we started something called the Dando Institute at University College London, an Institute of Crime Science, which is now trying to find new ways to reduce crime. And I'm involved with all sorts of other things, including Crime Stoppers. So just on the crime area alone, I've been heavily involved. I've got a book out called Crime, which is explaining why crime rose and why it fell dramatically. And so, quite apart from all the other things I'm doing, actually, I'm still quite involved with the whole crime issue.
You've forged a career in crime, haven't you, really? But on the good side of the law, it's quite... Nick, we've run out of time, and I've really enjoyed the interview, and I hope you have as well, but when you recount it, don't have nightmares, will you?
I'll try not. Thanks a lot.